they can teach us a few things, and I know things will be good. So let me prepare them, and I know that we will have a beautiful moment together. Otherwise, karibuni sana mitaboini. This is the Trumpet of Hope, and we switch languages now and then. We keep switching languages now and then. So right now, agikorwo ni uri na undu wana guthumbura wigie immigration, agikorwo wino ndwana guthumbura wigie immigration, twambiria kwaria uhoro wigie kugia na maratathi na undu wa gukorwo kana na njira ya kihiko thiini wa bururi wa America. Nwokire ndwari na maratathi, ngaithe witoge kuhe mundu mukihikania, process yo yothe niturikitie guthoma na nitukumitiriha muthenya wa umuthi na mundu gwitwo Charles Mena Mueni Muli. These are two attorneys. They will take us through the next part. They will introduce their next part, introductions, matuhuteria hanini hanini, maundu megie kinyagia asylum, maundu macio mothe nimegutuhuteria, just an introduction, and then we proceed on. So if you're there and you have any question, do not fear to ask that question tonight, and I know things will be good. I'm just setting up the systems. I can see them here. I want to make sure that we set up the system so that they can be they can come in right in a manner that we can be able to hear and to understand what they are saying. All right, let me see. Mother Solomon, thank you so much. Jane Mosheni, asante sana, thank you so much. Jenny Rongo, thank you so much. By the way, Jane, mom, when are you coming? Mama Wairimo Kari, they know our studios here, Trumpet of Hope. We need to work on that. Suzani Rongo, thank you so much. Nice to see you. Monica Wabukinya, hi Captain Denver tuned. Zedi Zina, how are you? Kuria gwitagwo Canada, mambo iko mzuri huko, maudu magoka wega. Dina maudu mathaka mbere yakwa. Right, all right. Let me fix these lines nicely. Let me fix these lines nicely. Nitoguthikiria rwimbo rwa Ngai ni aroka thutha wa kahinda gatari kunene. Nitoguthikiria rwimbo rwa Ngai ni aroka thutha wa kahinda gatari kunene, nigetha turuigue na njira njega o tugithie na mbere. So meanwhile,
oh, hallelujah. Riurerare. Nirerare naruo. Ona kurare kurito. No rerare. Roro neruaro are rogano. Radugata ya kuta kufu. Hederia tasha manetie na moraika wakugai atoraga na ruo rwa ngoro yodo wagwe toja kufu amenyare toja kufu eugaga ne modo wa mawara otuko mwewa motuko akiuga sheigana ne shaigana akioya tumi yake shena dugata na ido shake shiothe akemarikia karohe na kiageti gwario wiki akegiana na Ngai hakuhe gogedera akemwera dire kaodie otiga odathimire erirwagia netana Ngai na dona kahotana kogwoda shoka gweto jakufu aretago Israeli hauna haugogeshadia na keina reborwero
Right, thank you so much. I was listening to that great song. That song that was done by Wanjohi wa Kenyari. Wanjohi wa Kenyari. And on my other side, I see my legal experts are all set. I see my legal experts are all set, and we are going to have a beautiful time together and learn a few things. I'm trying to get them to come in nicely. That's good. That's good. Okay, let me see. Okay, let me see what is happening right here. There we go, Mueni. Now I get you right. Let me just hide this one. So the other. Okay, good. Hey. Inaitwa technology. We are live now. That's good. That is awesome. Tuthome maundu megie kindu gitagwo watho, and right on my screen so you can see our legal experts. They are right on standby so that we can discuss a few matters on or a few issues on immigration. And I want to give them a minute to say hello to us. We start with Mueni Muli-Raburu to say hello to us and to introduce herself and to say how the weekend has been, how the last week was, and a few other issues that maybe she would want to include on that introduction.
Good evening. How are you, Captain?
I am superb. I'm superb. Paul Sana, you guys are just yourselves on the screen. There we go.
Apologies for technology difficulties. I'm doing well. Good evening. My name is Mueni Muli-Raburu. I am an attorney with Wanjohi and Muli Law Firm. Always a pleasure, always a joy to be here with you. We missed you all yesterday because of the holiday, but I'm excited to join you all today. I hope you had a restful time. A holiday is never long enough for me. Sure. I could always do it one more day, but we enjoyed it. We are grateful, and now we are back.
Awesome. I know that you have come with quite a lot of goodies after going for your holidays and the long weekend. So we are all waiting. Mr. Charles.
Hello, how are you? Good evening, Captain, and the rest of the viewers.
Very good. We are fine. I see them clapping.
Yes, nice to see that. My name is Charles Wanjohi, an attorney with Wanjohi and Muli Law Firm. We are located in Raleigh, North Carolina, and me and my partner Mueni, we've been in this business. Now we have a combined experience of 20 years, where we have been serving our dear Kenyans, immigrants, and also people from other countries. And today we are excited. First, we have a countdown going on. It's 56 days to D-Day. We are first reminding those who are seasoned, please mark it on your calendars. Do something. And tonight we'll be talking a lot about asylum. In the last few weeks, we've been talking about the happy occasions, happy events. We've been talking about green card through marriage. That's one of the awesome and the best thing we like discussing, because it starts with happy ending. We start happy and there's also a happy ending. So everything is joyful from the beginning to the end. Mm-hmm. We like talking a lot about it. Unfortunately, sometimes things do not always go the way we want. And we also have quite a large number of people who are here They want to settle here, not that they would wish to, but they've been forced by some humanitarian circumstances. They've been forced to flee from their country because of one or two reasons. And that's what we'll be discussing tonight. We'll be discussing about asylum. Asylum is a very long topic which we can't even add today, even if we stay here for 5 hours. So we'll touch a little bit, we introduce the topic, and then in subsequent weeks, we'll get into more details. Thank you, Captain.
Thank you so much. Before we begin on asylum, it is important to just remind the people just a few things. I don't know whether it's you or Mueni who will just touch a few basics or a few pointers on what we discussed about getting married. And I would feel that is important to just some pointers on what we discussed on marriage.
So we went through pretty long, I think we did about 3 or 4 weeks of going into details about marriage-based petitions. There's numerous ways by which one can obtain legal status in the United States, and one of those is by marriage to a United States citizen. So we went through the whole process of what a marriage is, to the process of getting married, of what an application looks like, how you need to be prepared for the interviews, how to conduct yourself for the interviews, talked about how to collect evidence, talked about some issues that you should be aware of, some red flags, and answered some concerns that people had about people who have different kind of visas entering the country, some kind of waivers available for those with some issues previously, be it issues at the point of entry, be it issues at your application for your visa. So we went through all that, walking you step by step up to the point of the application of the green card and the subsequent approval of that. The biggest takeaway I would say from that is that information is very important. It's good to be knowledgeable, get the right information. We always say that lawyer Google is not your friend. There's several ways that you can actually get actual information that's direct to your specific facts. The misconception out there is that all applications are the same, all facts are the same, but that is actually very untrue. So we just spoke about the fact that it's important to, number one, be knowledgeable, educate yourself, and then have the realization that your case is not the same as anybody else's. And where there's a will, there's a way. Our purpose here is to be able to assist people, to be able to get lawful permanent resident status, and we are glad to do that. And we're speaking on a very general term. Of course, this would not be considered individual legal advice, and it's always advised to get in touch with somebody who is knowledgeable about the law. Be very specific, be very careful that whoever you're dealing with is an actual licensed attorney in the United States that you're getting the information from, because we have a lot of people in our community who know enough to be dangerous. I mean, that's not what we want. We want you to be to engage with a person who is actually licensed in the United States to practice immigration law, because again, there's too much of an investment. There's too much at stake for us to cross our fingers, and throw darts and hope it falls at the right place. We talked about the fact that let's get the right kind of information, and we're glad to be able to provide that to you.
Thank you so much. There's somebody who sent me a question, and I'll give it to you, Charles. Maybe you can discuss this one later, or rather when you'll be touching some pointers. Hey, brother, how long does the embassy take to summon a spouse who have applied for a marriage green card? How long? I don't know. I don't know whether you want to touch on that as we continue, or rather it's somebody who just sent that question, and I thought that it is one of the things that we had discussed. But I can refer him to the past debate, or rather you can just touch on that. Then when you touch on that, please introduce to us what is asylum and who is eligible to file for asylum.
All right. I think I'll just briefly touch on the question. The person is asking what happens here is that this individual has got a relative who is a spouse, who is a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, and it appears they've gone through the process, and now they are waiting for the interview.
Yeah.
To give a brief how this takes place, you file for the petition, which is Form I-130 with USCIS. The I-130 is approved. You go to NVC, National Visa Center. You do, that's called, the whole process is called consular processing. We shall submit the online application after making the payment. There's a payment which will be there. Once the payment is done, you make the online payment and then you upload all the supporting documents. Once that is done, the NVC will qualify the case. The case will be documentary qualified and is submitted for interview scheduling. At that point, the embassy, depending on the availability of the resources and available interview slots, will schedule one for interview and one will go. At this time, we're not sure how long it will take. Normally, with our Kenyan embassy, before COVID, it was taking 2 to 3 months. Once the case is documentary qualified, it's taking 2 to 3 months. Right now, we don't know. The people, we had a client who went for interview last week, and her case, she had been scheduled for interview way back in March. And now it's come back month of September, first week of September. That's when she has done that, because it was rescheduled. So right now we don't know how long it will take. And all I will tell them is keep working hard, keep documenting, and in case the police clearance certificate, or rather good conduct, expires, so it's about to expire, one should be able to start making arrangements to renew it. That's the only document which can expire. The other thing is if the person had not filed the taxes for 2019, you should have them ready with the person who is going for interview, so that once the interview is scheduled, the decision will be done the same day they will attend the interview. All right, that's a brief of it. Just as you said, we refer them to the previous discussion, and in case they have questions, they can always reach to us, and we'll be happy to take them through the process.
That's fine. Thank you.
To the question of the day, what is asylum?
And number one.
Okay.
That is the lion in the house. And I think that is the biggest thing that that is affecting so many people. There is so much that we're going to discuss today. If at all you have a question on asylum, please feel free to send in or to listen. And in case there's any question you want to ask, you can feel free to send that question either on the comments, or you can send that question direct to our studio number, and we are going to answer that question anonymously, just like some of these questions are going to be answered anonymously. I know there are some fears or there are some myths, and maybe when we continue, please, we need to clear these myths and the fears on the asylum process and the issues. So first of all, let's ask, what is this that we call asylum, and who is eligible to file for it?
Well, asylum, that's the thing which Mr. President Donald Trump hates most. That's what has brought all these issues of caravans and all that. That's why we are seeing crackdown on immigration. That man hates asylum. That's why we are saying 56 days, go do something. Asylum is the protection one is seeking. And the person who seeks asylum is called a refugee. You become a refugee because you are unwilling to return to your country of origin. The reason being that you have well-founded fear. You do not want to go back to your country because you are afraid what will happen if you go back to your country. And the reason being you have credible information, you have this belief, and you believe that you will be persecuted. There are guidance and pointers which are showing that you'll be harmed if you go back to your country, this harm must rise to a level of persecution. And the person who is harming you is doing it because you have a certain characteristic in you. And for you to get asylum, of course, everyone is afraid of harm going back to your country. And maybe you fear you'll be killed, you'll be mugged, you'll be do all that, you'll be broke if you go back to your country. All those are fears. There is a harm which can happen. But the only harm which is protected, it has to be that harm which is on the basis of what we call enumerated grounds. What are the grounds? What are the reasons that that person you are afraid of harming you will do it? And it has to be on the basis of race. It has to be on the basis of your national origin. It has to be on the basis of religion. It has to be on the basis of political opinion, or it can either be real or it's something. This a political opinion which is attributed to you, or you may not have a political opinion, but you assume to have a certain political opinion by the person who is persecuting you. And the other one, it's because of membership to a particular social group. This means that you belong to a certain group which is recognized within the place where you come from. And on the basis of your membership to that group, this person is harming you. Mm-hmm. And the final one is something called torture convention, which means that your government is the one which was persecuting you. The government harmed you. So if you're able to show those 5 grounds of persecution, and if additionally you have a convention against torture because of being harmed by the government, then you would be eligible to file for asylum. However, upon filing, you will also need to prove either the government is the one which is persecuting you, or the government will persecute you. And the persecution, we mean serious harm. We shall be dealing with what is persecution at a later point, but persecution means serious harm. So the government is the one which is persecuting you, or the government is acquiescing, the government is allowing somebody to persecute you. The government is closing its eyes. It's not protecting you. Or you show that the government is unable or unwilling to protect you. Mm-hmm. And once you're able to show that, you finally have to show that you cannot reasonably relocate to a different part of your country and you remain safe. Once you're able to prove all that you have well-founded fear of persecution based on a protected ground, and the government is the one which is persecuting you or is unable or unwilling to persecute you, and you cannot reasonably relocate to your country, you can get asylum. However, there's an aspect of discretion in asylum, and for that to apply, you must show that you do not have serious criminal offenses. If you have committed some offenses, you cannot get asylum, even if you qualify. If you have been involved in persecuting others, you cannot be protected. And also, if you have assisted a persecutor, you cannot be protected. That's what is asylum. And that's what we'll be dealing with in the next number of days. I know it's tough. It's one of the topics which we hold so dear in our heart, by understanding that this person who is crying in a foreign land, seeking assistance, seeking protection, really needs our serious and dedicated assistance, professional assistance, to make this person lead a normal life like most of us do.
Thank you so much. That is deep, and we will continue to discuss these matters. And when Mueni Muli-Raburu, who is also an attorney, will be coming in to answer this other question, if I am interested in with filing for asylum, what should I do? Please, Mueni, try and clear the fears and the myths that are there. Because some people, when they hear about asylum, they fear even to mention or even to speak or even to listen to a debate or even to write a question. They fear. There are so many myths and fears out there. So anyway, let's come to this second question that is out here. If I'm interested in filing for asylum, what should I do?
The first thing that you should do is seek proper legal advice. Asylum, we have two extremes. We have one extreme where everybody has done it, everybody does it on their own. I can show you how to do it. It's just a form. And then we have the other extreme of, oh my goodness, it's impossible, Donald Trump is president, right? So we want to meet in the middle of that with the understanding of really what is asylum. Asylum, by the very definitions of it, the very definition of what is a well-founded fear, what is persecution, what is a protected group, those are legal definitions. So it's very important that you get legal advice and proper legal advice to be able to understand and file for asylum. So that fear that is there, that it's impossible, that is not true. The other spectrum of that, which is it's very easy, anybody can do it, that is very dangerous. It is very dangerous because we have, especially in our community, very unfortunately, a lot of people, of asylum people, right? I went through the asylum process. I just filled in a form. It's called a 589. Come and show you how to do it. Mm-hmm. And we have very many people who are doing that. And the biggest issue with that is the fact that they are copying the same information. Mm-hmm. If you're found to have submitted a frivolous asylum application, you are forever barred from any kind of application to adjust your status in the United States. So it's very, very important you know who you're getting legal advice from and make sure you're getting sound legal advice. If somebody claims to be a lawyer, verify that they're actually allowed to work and do this work with the immigration courts, either as an associate or as an actual attorney. But just because I've done it before, just because I've walked 50 people out from doing it, that should make you very worried. And again, very sad in our community, they are so well known that even prior to getting the interview, they write us letters and say, hey, listen, attorney, we have seen this kind of application, this kind of statements for 17 different people. Your client is one of those people, right? So you want to be very, very careful. But again, you are afraid of going back to your country. You are unwilling to go back to your country because of a well-founded fear. You're eligible for asylum. It is not impossible. With the right legal advice, with the right information, you can be able to do this application. So first things first, get good, sound legal advice. Mm-hmm. Get advice from people who are experienced. Again, asylum is not anything to play around with. A frivolous asylum application, and especially now with all the changes that we'll talk about later on, any kind of frivolous application, any kind of generic application, that can bar you even from future benefits, even from naturalization. So you'd want to be very careful about it. Good legal advice and experienced advice. That's very, very important. And understand, what is asylum? We used to have a judge in Charlotte who would tell us all the time that they know you're from Kenya. They will tell you, do not bring me about Monjiki. We are known to have the same kind of situation over and over again. Mm-hmm. So know what asylum is. And for a judge to see that you're Kenyan and say, don't tell me about Mongiki, that's a problem. We have a reputation, right? So know what asylum is. It's very specific. You must have a well-founded fear. Well-founded fear is a legal definition of persecution. Persecution is a legal definition. On the account of the 5 groups that we've talking about, legal definition, there has to be a nexus, a connection between the persecution and the 5 grounds that we've talked about. In addition to that, the government has to be the persecutor, unable to control the persecutor. So make sure you understand what that means and that how that is applicable to your specific set of facts. Once you do that, understand the process. How do I start? Where do I start? There is evidence that is required to be collected. There's a statement that's supposed to be written. How you do this now and your interview that could come up in 21 days or could come up in 3 years is very, very important. So how you start this application, and again, we have very many changes that have happened to how you even present your initial application and the kind of evidence that you have to submit. So be aware of that. And then make sure you enter into a representation agreement. The problem with that, the need of that, is the fact that there are so many people who hold themselves out as being legal practitioners, as being attorneys, and they're in fact not attorneys. And again, the issue that we have is when somebody cannot find this person that they hired to do their application for asylum, the interview is coming up. What do you do next? Where do you find this person? I don't know who this person is. I just know he's Njoroge from Boston. I just know that he's Mary from Texas. I just know that it's Peter from California. That's not going to work. So whoever you're working with, make sure you have an actual representation agreement, whereby if you're assisted in getting this application, if anything is to go south at the end of the day, you're able to present the evidence of who assisted you. And again, asylum is given for people who have a fear. They have been through so much already. And this itself is a protection for you not to be taken advantage of further once you come into the United States. Asylum is here to protect you. Don't let anybody take advantage of that. So those are very important things that you must know and be aware of before you begin your application.
That is interesting issues and very touchy points. I don't know whether, Charles, you need to add something on that particular issue before we get to to what is involved. Do you have anything to add on what an individual should do?
Actually, it's only the last point whereby we talk about representation agreement. Ensure on top of having a representation agreement, there's a certain form called notice of appearance of attorney or accredited representative. Ensure you complete that form so that you're able to get the full official details of this individual who is claiming to represent you. Ensure you get that form called Form G28, Notice of Representation. No attorney, no board accredited representative who can represent you without that form.
Thank you so much. If you're just tuning in, we are having the attorneys Charles Wanjohi and Mueni Muli-Raburu. If you have any question on issues, on matters arising from asylum issues, feel free to ask that question. Send your question. You can WhatsApp me, and I'll be able to ask that question on confidence or in confidence. Remember that we are doing this solely to give you information. This is for information purposes, and as the attorney Mueni mentioned, we are not giving a legal advice. This is information, and this information you need to clarify, or rather to get personalized proper information from the attorneys of your choice. In case you have any need, you can call the attorneys that we have on the screen, and they'll guide you professionally, individually, according to your case, because your case may not be so and so's case, and your story, however similar, even if you came from the same village, even if you suffered the same challenge or the same problem, will not be taken the same. And this issue of copycats and plagiarism should not be arising if you follow the rules and the guidance that we have just been given on our first question. So, Bwana Charles, tell us what does filing for asylum involve? So many people want to understand.
Right. After you have gone through what Attorney Muli has told you, you're sat down with a legal representative, or you really think that you're very sure that you are eligible for asylum on your own, you will need now to complete your application. And this application is completed in a form called Form I-589. This form, you can find it at uscis.gov. This form is provided by the government for free. You don't have to pay anything to get that form. If you go somewhere online and you see somebody telling you to give this or that amount of money to buy this form, know that you're already in a scam. This form should be free. This form, I-589, is the one which you give all your personal details. This form is very detailed. You have to give your name, your address, a lot of details about your entry, your education, your work, your relatives. That will be the first part of it. And while you are doing this is what shows who you are. This is for identification purposes. Filling this form, you have to be very careful, because this is the first thing that the interviewer will look at. So if the information you gave in Nairobi and what you are filling in this form is not matching, you have to have an explanation. You cannot in Nairobi say you're married and then here you say you are single without an explanation. You cannot say in Nairobi that you are a businessman. Once you come here in the United States, you are the chairman or chairlady of ODM, Kiambu. You're a politician. So that form has to give you the basic about your case. If there's a contradiction between your personal details and what is there has to be an explanation. Asylum, when you file for it and it happened that at your embassy, you gave some inaccurate information, you can be forgiven without filing a waiver. However, you have to come out and explain why you did it that way. And the only reason which can make you get a waiver is if the very reason that you're running from Kenya, you are fleeing a persecution, and it's on that basis of the fear of that persecution that you had to give inaccurate information. If that's the case, then you can get a waiver. And I'll give an example. Assuming you are married and your husband is very abusive and you want to flee from him, you come into this country, you can get asylum. And by that asylum, you have to, it's very technical. For domestic violence, asylum is very technical. I have to mention that. But assuming that's what you want to file. And right at the point you are filing for visa, you are afraid that if I indicate Mr. Wanjohi is my husband, and I give his details, what if the embassy decides to contact Mr. Wanjohi? And Mr. Wanjohi, because he does not want me to run away, may tell the embassy, she's my wife, I have not given her permission to go to United States. So that fear makes you now indicate you are single, but you are married. If you come to the United States and you say, I indicated I'm single because I was afraid, the fears I had from my husband is what made me say I'm single, you will still get asylum, right? So that form is, you have to be very careful. Second, that form you indicate a lot of details, like details of your husband and children. Of course, they should match. If they're not matching, then you have to have an explanation. That form, when you are filling it, you should indicate your addresses. When you are in Nairobi, you indicated that you live in Kilifi, but now you are saying you are the Kirinyaga, you used to be the Kirinyaga, wherever. You are living in Kirinyaga. In your form, there's nowhere you are mentioning about living in Mombasa. Then you have to have an explanation. Otherwise, the officer, just by looking at that form, will find you not credible. Credible means you can't be believed, and your asylum will start on a very wrong footing right from onset. The officer thinks this guy is lying, even before they see you. So be very careful while you are filling your asylum application. You need to discuss at the start that each and every detail you give there, the officer will consider it. I've had instances whereby a lady will say, I was beaten by my husband, I ran away and hid for the last 3 months before I came to the United States. However, the address you are giving, your last address in Kenya, you've been there for 2 years. Yet you are saying that you ran from your husband the last 3 months, you never lived with your husband. Then already you are starting your case in the wrong footing. So you got to be very, very careful while you are filling that form. And this form, you have to fill it accurately. You can, I'm not telling anyone to give false information at the embassy. But if you give wrong information at the embassy because of these fears from persecution, you can get a waiver. If you give inaccurate information in this form I-589, you get permanent bar. You'll never get any immigration benefit in this country. So this form has to be like the Bible of your history, the Bible of your life. And after you're done with that, there's now the section where you indicate your claim. You summarize what is your claim. The form on itself should be able, there's space for you to explain, it's not enough. But you should summarize and you clearly articulate your claim. Because the new laws are, if the form I-589 on its own does not properly and clearly articulate your claim, your asylum can't be denied. You don't necessarily going for interview. So you have to ensure you get proper legal advice and you complete your form I-589 properly, because a lot of things have changed. Right. After you are done with your I-589, as I'm saying, you want the officer to understand your case, and the space you are given there is not enough. So we always encourage our clients, those who are able to write a detailed statement. In this statement, that's where you will give your entire claim. You will come, introduce yourself, give your entire biography, give all information about yourself, and clearly write about your claim. That's what the officer will read. And before you go for interview, the officer will have read that statement, and the officer will make an opinion as to whether you have a case or you don't. The danger is a lot of people write these statements, and the statement on its own is contradictory. So you have to ensure you take care of that. The statement has to be very, very accurate. Other people, in the form I-589, they indicate that they have not gone to school, they don't understand English, yet they've written a very detailed asylum statement in English. That can be the case. So if you're writing an asylum statement and you don't understand English, you write it in the language which you understand, then you give a certified English translation of that statement. Remember, once you go for interview, the first few questions you ask about how you completed your Form 589 and how you wrote your statement. So you have to get that one right. And remember, it's out of that statement that you'll be asked a lot of questions during the interview. So you don't just write a statement and you forget about it. That is what your statement is, like your marking scheme. Right. Once you have your statement, now the other thing, remember we said seeking proper legal guidance from a qualified and experienced person. Once you get that, they will have told you that you will need supporting evidence. You should now gather all that supporting evidence. And once you have the supporting evidence, your statement, you have completed the form, you submit your entire asylum application. Sometimes we find yourself that you might not have all these details at the time you want to file. And there are ways out of that, which we'll be dealing with in the next one or two. As we go down, we shall discuss how to go about it.
Wow. That is detailed, and I hope that you are getting the information. And this information, please do me a favor, share this information with a friend. I have come up with a YouTube channel that is specifically for this particular segment. This YouTube channel you can share with a friend. Go to the Trumpet of Hope, Captain RTV, the Trumpet of Hope on YouTube. You may not even subscribe, maybe, but I would request you do. But share this information with a friend because it will help somebody. So many people have very genuine cases. Oh, everything that Charles and Muli have mentioned. But because of some mistakes that emanate from wrong advice, they go and lose their chances, and they continue suffering, and their children continue suffering in whatever manner. So just listen to this and share this with a friend. That means I can write the form in Kikuyu. Is that what you said?
Not really. The statement you can write in Kikuyu. The form you have to get somebody who understands English.
Okay.
The statement, you write it in Kikuyu, then you get somebody to translate, and they certify that they translated it accurately.
Can I have somebody write for me? Can I tell somebody a dekiro doigire, and then he or she?
Yes, there's nothing which can stop you from telling that person, as long as the person is writing word for word.
Okay.
You're not telling me something, then me, I interpret what you are saying. You'll tell me I write word for word. And once we go for interview, I have to be very clear. I did not write this statement. I gave Captain information, and Captain wrote it. So all what we need is whichever form, because not everyone is able to write.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone can get access to a computer. So if you're not the one who wrote, the person who wrote has to sign, has to say, I wrote from information I was given by this and this and this and this. And it's on that basis that the officer will determine what weight to give to your statement.
Thank you so much. I don't know whether there's anything that Mueni would want to add on the issues of completing Form I-589 or asylum supporting documents, and especially the issues of asylum supporting documents or statements, and the evidence, and submitting the entire application. Immediately you add something. Muli, Tony Muli, please tell us about the how long should one file, within how long should one file for asylum?
And the only thing I would add, and again, we can talk about asylum until the cows come back home, but detail is very important. Your application will be denied for missing the smallest thing. So it's very important to not just complete a form, but be very aware what is being put in. So details are very important. The number of copies that are required, whether it should be colored or black and white, the size of your picture, whether you put your, your A number, birthday name at the back of it. So the details of the instructions, you have to follow them to the T, especially now they're looking to reject any of those applications as they come in. So it's very important that you make sure that everything is responded to and responded to accurately. The danger of getting your application rejected and or not being responded to is the fact that applications for asylum are time sensitive. You need to apply for your application for asylum within 1 year of your arrival into the United States. If you apply for asylum after you've been here for more than 1 year, it will be denied unless you can be able to show that there are changed circumstances that materially affect your eligibility for asylum. Or you should be able to show that you have extraordinary circumstances that prevented you from filing within 1 year. And again, extraordinary circumstances, changed circumstances, those are legal definitions. It's more than just the actual word. There's case law that will make a definition of what it is what would rise up to a changed circumstances. We'll talk about your country conditions. What is it that prevented you from doing it? And even though it's good and you should file for your application for asylum within 1 year, it may not be in your best interest to wait that long. Mm-hmm. You may want to consider your legal status in the United States. If you are only given 3 months, only given 6 months, well, don't sit back and relax thinking, well, I can have a whole year to be able to do this. No, fill in your application for asylum as soon as it's practicable to be able to do it. It is very critical for you to be able to apply for your asylum when you are in legal status, because let's assume you are able to, while you're waiting for your asylum claim to be adjudicated, you have the ability or chance to apply for a different kind of application. The fact that you applied for your asylum application while you're in good legal status could be helpful to you. So just because you have a year, you should not sit back and relax and wait for the entire year. And we spoke about the fact that, especially in our community, we have a lot of people who are not attorneys who file these applications and get so many of our people in trouble. So if you wait up until the very end and you have used somebody who's an attorney, you fall into some kind of trouble, and then your time for fixing could be jeopardized, right? Because you waited up until the very end, your time is gone, you've used somebody who's an attorney. So how are you able to fix that? So it's not impossible to file for application for asylum after 1 year, but it may not be in your best interest. Again, I don't say that to scare you, for you to say, fine, I've been here 2 years, it's over for me. Get legal advice. Talk to somebody about your specific facts. Make somebody understand, or just let them know what is it that made you not file for asylum, or did you speak to somebody and they discouraged you from doing it, or did you apply and you never heard anything back and you just kept quiet and did nothing about it. Do not sit in the shadows. I tell people all the time, previously you've been able to be here for years and years and just be in the shadows. That's not the case anymore, and especially now with COVID, people are home, so ICE is rampant because they know they will find people at home. This is not the time to sit down and do nothing. You should file for your asylum application within 1 year, but maybe you've been here for several years. Is there a reason why you did not file within that amount of time that can be able to fall into that legal definition of a changed circumstance or an extraordinary circumstance that prevented you from being able to file for your asylum within 1 year? So that is the rule. But again, there's ways to be able to work through that. And you have come into the country and you're really afraid. It should not take you 10 months, 11 months, 9 months for you to determine, well, let me go ahead and proceed with my application. Immediately you come into the country, you have no desire to go back because you're unwilling to go back because of that well-founded fear that we talked about. That is the right time to speak to somebody to find a way to apply for the asylum application. And again, remember, this is the people who have gone through something, who have some fear. So that period of time sitting down doing nothing only elevates that, only makes it worse for you. So the sooner you're able to do it, absolutely the better for you.
Thank you very much. Together with us in the studio is attorneys Charles Wanjohi and Mueni Muli-Raburu, and we are discussing the issues of immigration power, specifically tonight, touching on the issues of asylum. Now, a few questions that came up as we continued, and we are going to handle them in the process. Somebody kindly touch on the question: if asylum is denied, are you allowed any other reprieve, or is it a done deal? I know that question is coming up. I know you're going to discuss that. And then Zedizina, that is Steve Daniels from Iowa. Then Zedizina asks, when you say a statement, do you mean the narrative? You'll clear that. But as we proceed on, there's this question. What should I do if filing deadline is quickly approaching and I don't have all the supporting documents?
Right, and that becomes relevant because of what Attorney Muli has ably discussed about 1 year filing deadline. If your deadline is approaching and you do not have what we said, we spoke about filing form, completing Form I-589, and then all the supporting evidence you've done in them. For some reasons, some beyond your control, it may take a little bit longer to get some of that supporting evidence. For example, you came here and you did not have resources and you did not get good pointers as how to file for asylum, and within your 8th or 9th month, that's when you were able to raise fees to hire an attorney, and your deadline is quickly approaching. So what you do in the form I-589, you will go ahead and complete it, and you become as detailed as possible in the form. Include as much information as you can, so that the form on its own is able to show that you are what we can call prima facie eligible for asylum. The form should clearly show that you have all the required elements of asylum. Should be able to show that you have well-founded fear and the reasons why you have well-founded fear. Should be able to show that you don't have crime. Should be able to show that you filed it within 1 year of arrival here. Now, if you don't have, go ahead, complete the form. If you are able to do it, complete a statement. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to do statements. You find a situation whereby somebody had undergone too much persecution that by the time they come to our office, they can barely explain what's going on. Now, to tell that individual that you have 1 week to come up with a statement may not work. Some of them, they come and the minute they leave our office, the first thing we tell them, quickly go seek mental counseling, seek counseling, because they have been like tortured and tormented for so long that they need psychological intervention. So such people, they are in a situation they are not able to do their statement right away, a detailed statement. And I remember we said it's very critical to have a good statement because that's the one the officer will be using to see whether you're eligible for asylum or not. Again, remember you're running away from home and maybe a lot of documents you hid them from your persecutor, assuming it's an issue of domestic violence. You hide all your stuff so you are not able to get them right away. You hide, it will take a while before you're able to retrieve your supporting documents. You went to a hospital and you sent somebody to the hospital and the hospital is unwilling to release your medical records, to release proof that you went to that hospital. Some of them are telling you have to write letters and all that, you mail them directly. It takes a lot of time, and there can be so good, valid reasons why you are unable to get those documents right away. It's not compulsory that you must have supporting documents as you file for asylum. It's not compulsory that you must have supporting evidence as you file, even as you attend your interview. But it's always important and advisable to have such document because that's what is, we call it corroborating evidence. You are providing evidence to support that the claim you're having is legit. If you are abused, if you are harmed in your country, you went to hospital, it will be important you have some sort of medical record. Not sort of, you need to have medical record from the hospital where you sought medical attention. That will be able to prove that you went there. But there is a lot of delay in getting them. So you will still go ahead, you file for asylum. There are other evidence which you can get along the way. Remember we mentioned that when you file for asylum, there's also an aspect of the government ability and inability to protect you. You will still need evidence of that. If you are talking about domestic violence in a country, it's always important to show, to help the officer understand what happens in your country. So you will need some media cutting and professional opinions about this issue of domestic violence in your country. That is evidence which you can find online or from other resources as you wait to get the other supporting evidence. So what you do is gather what you have, discuss with your attorney. The attorney will give you proper advice whether it's advisable to file with partial evidence as you wait for the other evidence, which is allowed. The only thing is, if you get an interview scheduled, you'll have to send now the remaining supporting evidence at least 10 days before the interview so that you give officer enough time to review your form. So don't fall out of the 1-year filing deadline because you don't have all the supporting evidence. You can still do it.
Thank you. This is getting very, very deep, and our time is almost up. We have a few more questions that we can handle next week. I don't know whether you will allow that because it's almost, we already passed time. And some of these things are a little bit very, very important. And a little bit deep. So let's handle a little bit relaxing a minute and handle the other questions next week. Charles, allow me to put this one for next week, the issues of the process after I file for asylum. How is the process? How is the timeline? I know that is important. What should I do? What should I not do? And in that, let's handle the issues of moving from relocation. I filed my asylum when I was in Seattle, Washington. Now I have moved or relocated to another state. I filed for my asylum. I have gotten a husband or a wife. Can I get married? These important questions that come up. Recent changes in the asylum application. Let the people know what are the recent changes in the whole process. I wish we can handle that next week. But before I let you go, please touch on this one. If you move to another city and your case be moved to a new city, does that mean your case gonna be, how will your case, it's not very clear, your case gonna be a deal or done deal? Somebody is asking that question. Maybe we'll get it a little bit more clearer than the way it is, or maybe you understood from your professionalism. You know, for me, I'm grinning that. Please remember, there's somebody who asked, what do you mean by the statement? Is that the narrative? I don't know. Mention that as we come to kind of wind up for today.
All right, so the statement that we talked about can also be the narrative. This is the story. What is it that happened to you? What is it that causes, what circumstances right up to the issue of a well-founded fear? What was the persecution that you faced, how do you fall in within the 5 protected grounds? So that is what we're talking about regarding the statement, about the details that you have to have on it. And again, remember the fact that we talked about asylum cases could be heard as quick as 21 days or could last several years. So you want to be careful that how you package that application, your narrative, or your statement. There's a question too asking what happens if your case is denied. It's not over until it's over. When you say denied, I don't know if you're talking about the fact that you've been to the asylum office and your case was referred to an immigration judge. That is another chance to do the process all over again. You know, the mistakes that you made before the immigration officer, you're now before the judge, you get another chance, like a do-over, clean slate, start over again. Why is it that you think you're eligible for asylum? If the judge does not side with you, well, we have an option to appeal that decision by going to the Board of Immigration Appeals. That is a process whereby they will look through it and see if there's any abuse of discretion, look if there's a wrong application of the law, review those facts and see if really the judge made the right decision. And again, it's not over at that point. You have a chance to be able to go to the circuit court. If you do have another way to be able to adjust your status, you can always try to reopen that order and try to file for a new application. So it's not over until it's really over. And again, realize that with the asylum, we also have that withholding of removal option of it. We also have that Convention Against Torture component of it as far as the application, the 589 is concerned. So make sure that you have exhausted all the available options. But it's not over until it's over. Remember, you are unwilling to go back to your country. If you're unwilling to go back to your country, you should be able to put up a good defense as to why they should allow you to remain in the United States indefinitely in your asylee status, and of course, ultimately become a lawful permanent resident and then naturalize for that. There was a question asking about if you move, you are required to notify the service every time that you move. So make sure every time that you move, you file an AR-11 and notify them that you have moved to a different location. Unfortunately, they don't always move your interview date. You find chances whereby your interview is still called on in Seattle, yet at that point you live in Houston, Texas. So we are able to handle that because we will get a good time period of when the interview is and where it's supposed to be. But we always talk those things through. There are cases, for example, if I get my asylum case in Atlanta, Georgia, and I have the option of either having my asylum case in Arlington, Virginia, I'll choose to go to Arlington if they give me that opportunity. So again, it could be a strategy that you can use based on the experience with the officers or the offices where you are, but you are required to update them with your address, and they do the best that they can to make sure that your interview is called upon to a place that is close to you. And again, we can be able to resolve all this just to make sure that you get the right advice about your specific case and your specific fact pattern and how it can be able to apply generally as far as the asylum law is concerned.
Thank you. In that particular case, there was the issue. Does that mean that maybe the case will be delayed? That is the question that she was asking. If your case is moved, does it mean that it will be delayed for any reason, or for any? Is there any reason to cause a delay?
We want to look at, again, that could be something very strategic. We recently had a client of ours who lived, and we filed for the application in the asylum office in the Arlington region, and then she moved to Louisiana. They are way ahead on the applications for asylum, so we were very excited, whereby in Arlington, she was looking for another 3-4 years of waiting for her case to be reached. Immediately we moved to Louisiana, were called on for an interview within a month, and her case was approved. So we do have that knowledge of where they are per the offices. We do have that knowledge as far as how the officers are based on the application, how it is. So we can have that flexibility. But there's no question about it. You have to notify them that you have changed your address. you are required to do that. But where your interview is held could be strategic and not necessarily means a delay. We've had it many chances where it moves to a quicker jurisdiction and you're able to have your case heard even sooner and before better, quote unquote, better officers.
Last but not least, for now, what about if you have stayed more than 10 years in this country? Can you still file for asylum? That's somebody who has stayed in 10 years.
Okay. Just to go back to the previous question about relocation, there's also one thing we need also to remind the person who was asking that question. Mm-hmm. If you have a pending asylum and there is a delay, for a long time if it's delayed for over 150 days, you're eligible to apply for asylum, and within 180th day you get I don't mean you're eligible to apply for asylum, I meant you're eligible to apply for work permit. And within the 180th day, you can get your work permit approved. That's a matter of discretion by USCIS. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, that one has changed to 1 year. And what determines the counting is called asylum clock. The asylum clock starts running from the day the USCIS receives your application. There are several things which can stop that clock. And the minute the clock stops, you will not head towards your now your 1 year day or your 150 days. You will not get towards them because it has stopped. Some of the reasons which can make that clock stop is you fail to go for biometrics, or you occasion a delay in your case. One of the ways you can occasion a delay in your case is transfer of a case from one jurisdiction to another. Mm-hmm. For instance, you are living in Boston. Boston is at the Newark USCIS office jurisdiction, and you decide to move to North Carolina. North Carolina is at the Arlington asylum office jurisdiction. So that movement from Boston to North Carolina will stop your asylum clock. Okay. And if you had not reached the number required for you to get work permit, you will not get. So it's always advisable before you make plans to relocate, discuss with your attorney so that you understand the implication of your relocation, and you will make a decision whether to go ahead with that relocation or not. To your question about somebody has been here for 10 years, this is what now Attorney Mueni had explained. Yes, you can file for asylum, but I wish to point out right now there's what I may call a crackdown on this asylum. That's why these rules came into place. And one of the things which these rules are looking at is those people who are filing for asylum late with other purposes. One of the purposes would be to get work permit. The other one would be for them to file for it, and then they are placed in removal proceedings. Remember, if you not granted asylum, you are referred to immigration judge. And some people now will file for asylum so that they are placed in removal proceedings. Once they get in removal proceedings, they look for other things they can be eligible for. For example, a lot of them, they file for asylum. Asylum is denied. You are referred to an immigration judge. Then you become eligible for something called cancellation of removal relief when you go to before an immigration judge. So that has been happening. And if you've been reading in the news, there have been a lot of such cases. And there's, I think it was in the news of a certain attorney in our state, I think Arizona, I'm not 100% sure. He had filed so many cases, and all of them were being referred to immigration judge, and immediately they go there, now they start filing for cancellation of removal. So you only file outside 1 year if you have extraordinary circumstances. There can be a lot of extraordinary circumstances, but the most major one is usually medical reasons whereby you are showing, were it not for this medical condition, I would have filed for asylum within 1 year. This medical condition can either be physical sickness or mental sickness. And then, of course, there is the changed circumstances in your country. If when I came here, there was no need of filing for asylum because I was safe in my country. But now, 10 years down the line, a lot of things are going on in that country that I'm no longer safe. Then such changed circumstances can be excused, and you can file for asylum even at 10 years.
Wow. Thank you so much. As we conclude tonight, a few wrap-up questions for tonight's topic, and I will come back again. If you have any question, you can send the questions. My number 978-227-6484. I will also send the questions to Charles or Mueni. We'll be able to post those numbers shortly, and maybe Mueni, Attorney Mueni and Attorney Charles, in case the handlers, the office handlers, they can actually look at some of these things, and if at all there is somebody who requires a reply, we can be able to do that. So I don't know what you have to say. Let's start with Attorney Mueni. Conclusions, closing remarks.
So there is a whole lot that we can speak to about asylum. And again, your facts are going to be different. Asylum, we want you to be very careful. Again, a finding of a frivolous application for asylum can be really detrimental to your future in the United States, even at the point where you have other options to apply for lawful permanent resident status. So we urge you to be very, very careful. We do not say that to scare you. We do not say that to say that it is impossible. It is very possible. And we advise you to file for asylum. The purpose of it is to offer protection, the very foundation of it, regardless of what our current president tries to do to it. And there's a lot of fear mongering happening in the news. And again, he does not make the law. He does not pass the law. So there's a lot that can be taught that makes people think that asylum is no longer done. You can no longer file for asylum. That is not true. Get involved with somebody who practices asylum law, who's knowledgeable and up to date with the changes. Get to know how your circumstances. Again, like Attorney Wanjohi said, you've been here for 10 years. What are your country conditions? We can go over them year by year by year, show the differences up until today, and make a determination whether or not it is in your best interest to file for asylum. In the event that you are granted asylum, your family can be able to join you. You're able to get lawful permanent resident status. You're able to get your citizenship. So it's a path that is available. We do not want people to be afraid, think that it's impossible. As long as you are knowledgeable on it, you will be able to get the help. The simplicity, if I may say that, of asylum is that there are human rights reports that are printed every year by the Department of State that would tell you the specific issues that arise up out of each and every single country. So that is a stuff that you can be able to get familiar with and be able to apply this to your facts and be able to make sure that you are able to get a successful asylum claim. We cannot stress enough how it is important to ensure that you're not taken advantage of. Please hire an attorney to file your claim for asylum. It is detrimental to you, and it gives us a bad name. I mean, it's horrible that we're just known Kenyans from this particular region all use this one person, and then the people who have legitimate claims are also affected by that. So there's a lot at stake for you not to play around with. We urge you, please get good, sound legal advice.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I can't insist enough on the need to seek information, and information is power. You may have a very legitimate and good story, something that has happened to you, but because of a failure to seek information and advice, or even to just consult, you go and get into a very deep hole that will cause trouble not only to you but even to others who within your region, because we say so and so, or this particular group of people, this is what they say, or this is how they write. Plagiarism, using the same name, the same story, the same, it is not right. So, Attorney Charles, close for us.
Yes, if you would allow me just to quickly answer, there were only 4 or 5 questions and we have answered 4. So
yeah, I just thought
the last question was about marriage.
Yeah.
Marriage with pending asylum application. Well, as we said last week, over the last few weeks, the reason why you get married is you have fallen in love with someone and you need a soulmate. That's why you get married. So the relevance of this, I do not understand, but I'm assuming that this person maybe is trying to link our previous session with asylum. And I will assume this person is saying that they are married to a US citizen now. Yes, if you're married to a US citizen, you can file for marriage-based green card. In this country, you can file for as many applications as you are eligible for. So if you have asylum application, you're eligible, you can file. If you have another kind of visa, you are still eligible for it, you can file. Remember, there are people who are in status, there are students and all those kind of people, there are people who are employed at the H1 visa and all that, and they can also file for asylum. So if you do that and you get another benefit which you are eligible for, you can still do it. And with the marriage, they still happen. However, there's a major problem which is happening. A lot of people are filing for green card based on marriage, and they have a pending asylum, and then they make the mistake of withdrawing your asylum application. The minute you do that, the asylum office, before they can close your asylum file, they have to look at 2 things: if you're out of status or you're in status. If you're out of status, they only close your file because there is an approval in your case, or you have another valid status. If you don't have, then they will have to refer you to immigration judge. So if you attempt to withdraw your asylum before you have attended interview, green card interview, and the officer has told you they are approving your green card interview, you start the risk of being referred to immigration judge. And even now your green card, all the money you have paid will all go to waste, and your case will take even longer. So if you get married, go ahead. Don't withdraw your asylum. Go ahead, apply for your green card. And once you are granted that green card, there's a time to withdraw your asylum. In conclusion, we can talk a lot. You can stay here the whole day talking about asylum. And remember, as we said, we love doing this because we see real changes in people's lives. We see people coming to our office crying as they explain their case. We advise them to seek counseling as we do the other job. And 1 year down the line or a few months down the line, we see a completely different person. We love seeing us playing a role in reuniting families. Captain, we are so happy that over the last few years, God has used us to reunite a lot of family members. There's so many women who support our farm, who always refer a lot of clients to our farm because today they're in the United States with their husbands and their children through the asylum process. So it's something we love because we see immediate impact into distressed people's life. So ensure you seek proper legal advice, do it the right way. You need protection. you cannot get protection unless you are seeking it the right way. And that's what we are here to help you, just to give you a pointer to how you should do it. And in the next few days, we shall be talking about now what is, we spoke about persecution, we spoke about harm. What is exactly is that harm? We shall be talking about, we mentioned about enumerated grounds, and we spoke about the 5 of them. What are they and what do they exactly mean? Attorney Muli mentioned about something called nexus, the link. How do you link your case to the harm and the ground? Those are some of the things we'll be dealing with. And also along them, we'll be dealing with changes. You all know some few weeks, 2 weeks ago, there are some changes which came into place about eligibility for employment authorization documents, work permit. There are few changes which have taken, and they are very huge. We shall be discussing them in our next sessions as we go along.
Thank you so much. I wish you all a very good night. Thank you so much for such an informative session, and we look forward to getting another one next week, probably on Monday. I hope so. On Monday, Attorney Mueni, we follow you. Whatever you say, you are the majority, and you are... you are the commander. Whatever you say, we're going to follow. Otherwise, we'll look forward. There are so many other questions that will come up, but we're going to deal with them next week on Monday at exactly 8:30 Central Standard Time, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. If you have any question, please feel free to ask. Thank you so much. Have a good night, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you so much, Sante. So to our viewers on YouTube, I'm giving you a kwaheri. We will be continue with our viewers who are on Facebook and also on our Trumpet of Hope apps. And for now, I close that particular session on YouTube. Until next week, God bless you.
Captain RTV, the trumpet of hope, Captain